really does sound like a Mark 1 Mini. That's hilarious. In this video, it's glamorous camping life. There is drizzle in the air and I have a cheap Chinese camper. This is a Great Wall Wingle double cab camper. What's it like? So yeah, for some reason when Great Wall tried selling these vehicles in Europe, they didn't call them the Wingle, they called them the Steed instead. This is the first generation Steed. The second generation had different frontal styling, and that's what they tried selling in the UK. Apparently they actually assembled some of these in Bulgaria, so that means they're just like Austin Maestros. What a horrible noise that is in the background. I assume a child is being murdered or something. But this is thought to be the only Great Wall camper in New Zealand. They didn't sell many because no one seemed to want them, and this one has had a fairly hard life of sitting on forecourts waiting for someone to buy it. But then a hub nutter turned up and he said, you know what, this cheap Chinese camper van is just the thing for me. And so we bought it. So the Great Wall story starts in the mid 1980s when they started making trucks. But by the early 2000s they were starting to make pickup trucks, and they've since branched out into cars, often using the Haval brand. But this is a Great Wall. You can see the Great Wall badge. That is the wall. This is the catchy model number, CC5037XLJ. And the J looks like a considerable afterthought, and they all look like they've been bought from Halfords. They may have stolen the design from there, it's entirely possible. The rear lights appear to be from a Iveco truck. The cab itself is an Isuzu design. I'm not entirely sure whether it was built under license or stolen. We'll get to the running gear in just a moment. But they do an interesting sort of incandescent bulb here, which looks like it's only slightly illuminated. We should probably take a look inside, because I guess that's the bit you're probably most interested in on a camper. It is self-contained. That's important. New Zealand campers, if you want to do freedom camping, it's got to be self-contained. It must have a toilet. So we'll open the door, lock door tightly in driving. Make sure that's done. There's a separate screen door to keep the bugs out. I assume that slides across to stop them just going straight through that gap in the middle, but you need that so you can get all the door gubbins in. You can get a step to make life easier getting in, but up we come. We've got a sneaky preview of the cab from here through this little hatch. I'm not sure what the point of that is. I don't know if it's so tea can be made and passed to the driver. Up above the cab is the bed, and put some lights on because it's such a miserable day. Perfect for camping. This is where I slept last night, indeed. Very comfortable double bed. So I've got windows with fly screens and lovely little curtains. Turn those lights off to save energy. Here is the main power board. So that will tell us what we've got voltage wise, and that looks pretty healthy to me. I don't know what that tells us because I can't read Chinese. English stickers have been added over the Chinese. Don't know what that does. It still lights up. No one knows. Heater, water pump, fridge. Oh yeah, there goes the fridge. Can hear that running now. I'm not using the fridge today. Internal light, which is worth looking at because it's this magnificent device up here. And again, another fascinatingly yellow incandescent bulb, which seems to have slightly melted the housing, which doesn't strike me as ideal. There are also LEDs and a fluorescent tube, just so you have all of the lighting in the world and feel like you're sitting in a spaceship. There is air conditioning. This big panel up here, when you're plugged into the mains, will keep you nice and cool. It has natural wind and a low hot and a high hot, but apparently it doesn't do any heating. The owner has tried. There's a solar panel on the roof, and we can see it's at 100% at the moment, so that's charging up the leisure battery. We can run our stuff off here, although there are proper plugs also variously. That shouldn't be turned on. So extra USB charging down here. There is a rear cooler which makes an awful lot of noise and doesn't actually seem to move very much air. Talking of air, I must show you this detail around the corner. Air United. The reason you see a Scotland banner, a Chinese flag and a Slovakian sticker, the owner's Scottish, his wife is Slovakian, and of course representing China with this fine steed. We've got all mod cons with the tunes and the DVD player, so that's all good. Table down here complete with plant life, bizarrely, slightly unexpected. More opening windows, and when it isn't covered in books, this will fold up to become the top bunk, so each bunk gets its own little window. We've seen the window on the outside. Fire blanket's a good idea. We've got a combined sink and hob, which is quite a good idea. The glasses are rolling around a bit in there, but they're plastics, that's fine. Oh, I may have cornered a little too vigorously. That's what these tabs are for, you see. You put your tab over there and it should stop the drawer opening. But that's not very easy to do, so I'm not going to bother. There's an elephant and a kettle, so you can make tea and look at an elephant. There is, of course, a bathroom. Luxurious bathroom. So I've already turned the light on. It's a full wet room, so there is a toilet, a sink and a shower. But bizarrely, the shower only works when the engine's running. But I have to say that's fair advice. I don't think you should shower on the move. Not a very sensible idea. There is a little fan in here. Does that turn it on? Whoa, jeepers. Yeah, that's kind of blowing the wrong way. That's blowing air in, really. You want the air being sucked out. Maybe that's... Ah, there we go. So that's to blow your fumes out, and that's to suck air in if you feel the need for more air in here. It's all top quality stuff. Chemical loo, as you'd expect. I shall turn the light off. There we go, save some energy. Close the door and then lock it. So that's the inside area. There's somewhere for your screwdrivers, always useful. Playing cards, because what else are you going to do when you're stuck in a camper van on a miserable day like this? All the good stuff. Let's hop out. And take in the interior of the Great Wall. Look, official Great Wall mats. That's a bit posh. Generally it's all a bit plasticky in here, and low rent, but the gear change is quite pleasant. That's not bad at all, really. We've got 2 high, 4 high and 4 low, so electric selection of those things. We have air conditioning, a full complement of electric stuff, all of which seems to work. Although the window, oh, too early with the wipers. The window does sound like it's going to jump off its runners when you lower it, but nonetheless it does lower. There's a dashboard which occasionally cuts out and stops reading anything at all. Indicators right with a light switch here, and we've got fog lights over here, wipers over here, including the mist function. Look at that, it's just enough overlap when it's actually running and the wipers go a bit quicker, so you don't get a triangle of doom. Works pretty well. Buttons on the steering wheel, quite posh. Apparently that design inspired by a Toyota MP3 player, and not a bad indicator noise, proper old school. Decent seats actually, and if I can lift off a cover, I'm not sure how easily I can do that. It's leather seats as well. I mean, it's a strange, very plasticky sort of a feeling leather, but nonetheless it probably was an animal at some point. It's hard to tell which one. Let's jump into the back. Here in the back, the roof is actually slightly sculpted, so there's a little more headroom, so that works for me. Decent amount of knees alert knee room here, so it's quite a comfortable place to sit. The bench is a little upright, which tends to be the way with these utility double cabs. They're trying to squeeze everything in, and that includes the door. Look how far back the door opening is compared to where my legs are. So getting out this little gap is somewhat problematic, but nonetheless I can just about cope. Ta-da! And the door shuts in a sort of a reassuring way, I think. So let's have a peek under the bonnet next. Turn the ignition off before I blow anything up. So here is the 2.4 litre petrol engine might not be quite what you expect in a vehicle like this, but in New Zealand, diesel users are hit by road charges as well as the fuel cost. So while the fuel is much cheaper, they get hit in other ways. So petrol is actually preferable. And the engine's origins are quite tricky to work out, actually. I've no idea where the design was borrowed from, but there we go. Now, I've heard a rumour that actually Great Wall just nicked the design and started making them, but I believe there was eventually a proper licensing agreement, and some of these engines now go in proper Mitsubishis but are still made in China. We've got an electric fan down here which makes very peculiar noises, and I've just got myself hooked on the bonnet catch, but you know, ABS and air conditioning, power steering. So 2.4 litres, about 130 brake horsepower and not enough torque. Oh, shall we look for some Chinglish in here? So cooling fan starts up possibly at any moment. Hands to fan shroud is forbidden. So there we go. Never open when hot, that's fair enough. Great Wall Motor Company Limited. Make maintenance once at each 5,000 kilometres. So here we are aboard the Great Wall Wingle. It's an interesting name. We shall start it up, and of course it sounds like a petrol engine because it is a petrol engine. I'm going to do that window up, nice big windows, they seem to work well enough. Put that on throughput, bit of fan, bit of aircon. Oh yeah, I hear the compressor kick in, that may affect performance, and away we go. There's a certain degree of harshness going on. It's weird. I mean, it sounds like a Nissan Micra. Or maybe that's the aircon compressor that's created. Oh yes, it is. It sounds much nicer without the aircon compressor on. Oh. Yeah, it sounds like an utterly uninspiring Japanese saloon, but it's a massive pickup. Just having to watch out because my mirrors do stick out. I don't want to collect any pedestrians. Can hear stuff moving around in the camper body, but I think it's all right. But it's certainly nice enough to drive, unremarkable. Perhaps first gear is a little notchy with the gearbox cold. Yeah, I've got a rear view mirror even though there is no rear view, so that's a bit peculiar. Yeah, it's not overly blessed with performance from this 2.4 litre petrol engine. Now here we are driving in Auckland. It's fairly busy, touristy time of year. Yeah, there's some serious NVH issues going on. That sounds extraordinarily awful. Yeah, that's not good at all. Maybe we won't apply full throttle. So it's a selectable four-wheel drive here, so I can go 4 high and 4 low. Imagine you're only meant to select 4 low when you're actually stopped, so we won't be doing that on the fly. But yeah, I mean, the ride doesn't feel too bad for a house. The plastics are disgustingly icky, but we're surviving. Steering's nice and light and entirely vague, so no different to most moderns. While we're pottering beyond this Toyota RAV4, we shall do a wiper test. Pull. Well, the wipers seem slightly underpowered for my liking. They seem to be struggling a bit, but just enough overlap to avoid a triangle of doom, so that's all good. Yeah, that's really not good. And it doesn't really accelerate when you put your foot down, it just makes noise. Imagine this 4-up with all your luggage must be sluggish. Oh. Very noisy little gearbox as well. We're going to take it up a big hill because that's the obvious thing to do in an underpowered vehicle. Oh, come on. Oh, oh, maybe should have gone slightly slower over that. A lot of stuff moving around. I'm not sure where it is. I think it's because there is a direct window right behind me into the campervan. So I can hear the cutlery and stuff moving around. Quite why you need that window, I'm not sure, but yeah, I mean, it sounds like a Mini. It really does sound like a Mark 1 Mini. That's hilarious. Oh gosh, there are vehicles all over the place here. I was hoping to avoid that. Have to go to the upper car park. For all the world, I could be in an original Mini. That's insanity. But it's going a bit better up here than I expected. So first gear is quite low, as it needs to be. The brakes are good because there must be a fair amount of weight here. But yeah, the hub nutter in question, Frankie, absolutely loves this. But he says the response he's had when he's taken it to campsites, people are remarkably rude about it for being Chinese. But it's done 46,962 kilometers. So it's, yeah, by camper standards, that's probably quite a lot. And it's just returned. It came back on Monday, today's Wednesday, from a trip all the way down to Dunedin from here in Auckland, and it seemed to perform that without exploding, so that's encouraging. You have to put the noisy aircon on again, I'm sorry. But yeah, performance is not this vehicle's forte. That surprises me not at all. Not even a little bit. It's hilarious. I could be sporting and say it sounds more like a mini metro, but it very much that same sort of noise. That's hilarious. Oh dear, already struggling up this slight slope. Can we overtake the cyclist? Yes. But yeah, the MVH is terrible. Oh, I've got the fuel light and the engine overheat flickering away at me at the moment on the dashboard. That's reassuring. Oh, and all the dials went and then came back again. Marvellous. Auckland is the land of an awful lot of traffic lights. But I'm going to take the road to Whangarei, and not all the way to Whangarei. I don't think we've got enough petrol to get too far. I can't imagine economy is particularly good, given it's a petrol engine flogging its guts out. I love that transmission noise. You know, engineers work so hard to engineer out that sort of noise, and that's where character comes from. Here we go. Here we go, slightly. But it doesn't fit. Oh, yes it does. Yes, it does feel top heavy. So we won't be exploiting the cornering, but 100 kilometers an hour. This could take a while. I can see the traffic may also cause me issues trying to get up to 100 here. There we go, we are cruising at 100, which is the speed limit here. I wonder what the speed limit for this vehicle is. If you're the police, I may not necessarily be doing 100. Yeah, there we go, that'll do it. As soon as we hit a hill, it's an issue. Now it's leveled out, I can put the air conditioning back on again. It doesn't actually feel too bad. I don't think I would necessarily choose this as a motorway cruiser, but I'm actually quite impressed with how refined it feels at speed. As long as you don't put your foot down. If you put your foot down, it just sounds rough. I don't know how they've managed to make that so rough. It must be down to engine mounts. Chinese rivalry, that's a photon Tunland. Which are apparently very unsafe. Ah! That thundering noise is the cooling fan, which obviously comes on when you have the air conditioning on. I haven't at the moment, but obviously the car has reached a temperature where it feels the fan is necessary. Now, I don't think these were actually marketed as the Great Wall Wingle here. I think they were sold simply as V240. 240 being a reference to the 2.4 litre engine, produces about 130 brake horsepower and not enough torque. But still, it was an interesting driving experience. And if Hubnut was to do camping experiences, then I think it would probably do them in a cheap Chinese pickup converted into a camper in the rain. Oh yes, this is such a glamorous life. But oh yeah, that was the Great Wall Wingle. Sorry, not Windle. I keep calling it a Windle and it's a Wingle. There's a subtle difference there. It's all about the G. But maybe I'll just call it a Great Wall V240 instead, and that might be an awful lot easier. But an interesting vehicle to drive. I still can't believe how they've managed to take the cab of an Isuzu, the engine of a Mitsubishi, and the gearbox of an Austin Metro and somehow make it all work. It's just incredible. But I hope you've enjoyed the ride, and yeah, I look forward to you watching some more of my videos. Now that sounds even worse, but there you go. Farewell. I'm giving you a driver's eye view, so I'm also aware I haven't actually given it all of the revs as instructed in first gear yet. I can't really do second because we go above 50 kilometers an hour, but we shall try first. Hello. That's not the soundtrack you expect, is it? It is actually quite a nice gear change, and the steering may be vague, but it doesn't wander, and it's very easy to place, so some of my earlier misgivings may have been somewhat misplaced. It really isn't a bad car to drive. You compare it with my Indian Rover City Rover, and the gear change in that is horrible. I didn't think it was that bad at first, but it graunches in a most unpleasant way, whereas this just sounds weird when you decelerate. But yeah, it's quite pleasant really, and as long as you don't start chucking it around, it doesn't feel wobbly and top heavy. You have to be aware of its limitations and drive within them, but it's not horrendous by any stretch of the imagination. I'm sure the fuel gauge moves when you accelerate though.